What do you do when your entire settlement is built on a hillside? Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Graygarden. This is a revisited settlement build for me. I already did this one, but I did it such a long time ago that the tools that I use and the methods that I use to build settlements have changed a lot, and I wanted to completely update it. So here's my new Graygarden, complete with everything new with Contraptions Workshop. As you can see, I made great use of the Overpass, which I completely ignored in my last build. To truly appreciate this, you need to see it at night. Here's what it looks like at night. The lights from all of the different houses really come out. You can see the unique character of this build, and this is exactly what I was going for. Here it is in the back, and you can see that I used the scaffolding that came from Contraptions Workshop in combination with the box cars that came with Contraptions Workshop to try and build a scaffolding city underneath the overpass. But I also built on top of the overpass and on the ground. So let me start from the beginning, and I'll show you what this settlement looks like. So out front, you see that I've built a garden, and the reason for that is these handy robots. So Graygarden comes with these robots that are farming and gardening, and what I did, if you watched my other build, is I moved all of my crops to the inside here. But what I found is that when I removed them from the farm out front, that the Mr. Handy robots would stand here farming. They didn't actually go inside. See, take a look at this robot, Supervisor Green. He's farming. So basically what I had out here was a bunch of Mr. Handy robots just sitting around doing nothing but just clicking their claws at empty space. So what I decided to do to fill this out is I turned it into a little garden. I've got all of these plants arranged here in exactly the spots where the Mr. Handy robots prune plants and farm mutefruit trees. Now, because this is such a busy area, the robots do kind of get confused and they'll pause, but they start up again and they'll start farming the different plants. And I placed a bunch of seating around here, complete with coffee stations, benches, flamingos, a smoking station, cigarette machine, and the settlers do come here at night to relax. And the reason they come here is because I used these relaxation markers that come with the Build Your Own Pool mod. I link to it in the description of the video. And the relaxation markers are invisible when you exit the workshop, and they act just like bars. So if you've played the game for a while, you realize that at the end of the workday, the bars attract settlers to them. The relaxation markers work the exact same way, and at the end of the workday, settlers from all over the settlement will come down here to the relaxation point and relax. Here we've got a settler warming her hands by the fire. This settler's been sitting back here drinking some coffee. This settler is coming over here. And I placed relaxation markers all over the settlement where I have places for settlers to relax. So here I have a fire pit with some hogs on the spit here, and some settlers are just relaxing over in these chairs. I've got some decorated tables over here, complete with food and cereal and snacks, and as you can see, the settlers dutifully come on down and sit down, and that's because I have some relaxation markers all over the place. So, pro tip, if you want your settlers to actually go where you want them to go at the end of the day and use the seating and the utilities that you place down for them, you need to use the relaxation marker that comes with the Build Your Own Pool mod. I need to keep changing the lighting because the shadow cast by the overpass will cover this entire thing in darkness if I don't. But here I have a bar, and one thing that I did with the old settlement, the first version of this settlement, was really ugly, and that's because I tried to make use of the hillside down here by placing a whole bunch of shops. And the reason was because I hadn't done my happiness experiment at that time, and so I didn't really know the exact metrics that went into building a happy settlement, and I figured, well, shops grant happiness, I'll just throw a bunch of shops down. And so basically every single one of my older settlements was a huge marketplace. And I've kind of evolved beyond that, so to speak, in the way that I think about happiness. Nowadays, I don't really care about happiness. If the settlement is stuck at 80 happiness and it doesn't get any happier than that, I'm fine with that because I'm more concerned now with the look of the build, the aesthetic of the build, rather than the raw numbers. So with this settlement, I have just one shop, and it's a bar. And I have it elevated on this nice little platform over here that was covered in a bunch of scrap, which I scrapped, and then I placed these railings that came with the Wasteland Workshop concrete pack, and then I put down a little table down here for the settlers to smoke, and some bar stools so that they can cozy on up to the bar. Over here in this corner, and sorry for the shade cast by the Overpass, is my robot workbench, and I figure there are so many robots. I sent Codsworth here. There are so many robots in this settlement that it would be silly not to have a robot workbench. So I've got a robot workbench down here to repair the robot farmers if they need it. I've got a dilapidated robot frame over there in the corner, and then just some containers for workbenches and so forth. I had 3 different structures here in the old settlement, and I removed 2 of them. I only kept 1 of them. I had one over in this corner, and it just didn't look right. It was taking up a lot of space. It kind of looked shoved in the back, and it just didn't fit in. So I removed it, and the only one I kept is this one. This little shack here, and I spruced it up a bit. I put some railing on the deck out here. I put some seating on the deck so that the settlers can come out here and enjoy a pint. And then on the inside, I removed the sleeping bags and replaced them with beds, actual beds, and then I put some individual storage under each bed, and then I decorated the walls and put in some clothing containers and some personal effects and paintings just to make it look more lived in. If you recall, I used the way that this settlement got water is just with a bunch of water pumps, and I got rid of those in favor of these powered water pumps that came with Wasteland Workshop, and I've got them powered here, and then I wanted to do something really interesting, and I'll explain more about it later on, but you see this is a water pipe, and this comes with a really cool mod that I link to in the description that allows me to craft water pipes throughout my facility, and each of these grants 2 water. So 10, 20, 30 water from these, and then I have 3 of these water pipes that grant 2 water, 2, 4, 6. So that brings me to 36, and I can show you my vital stats. Happiness is slowly improving. I took a big happiness hit when I started working on this, but I've got 34 people, 37 food, 36 water. There's just enough room for 36 settlers at this settlement, and I will get there eventually. So these water pipes give me exactly the water I need, and without having to use those water pumps. Now, let me talk a little bit about elevators. Contraptions Workshop came with some elevators, and I used them in this build. And I was really excited because you see how this overpass has this crumble out bit right there? Well, the 4-level elevator worked perfectly in this spot. It fit perfectly, and the top floor ended right where the overpass road was. So it was a perfect fit, but there's a glitch with the 4-level elevator, as I'm sure many of you have experienced, and that's that if you fast travel away and come back, the control buttons are missing. So you can't actually use it. As you can see, I have the car called, but I can't actually use it because the top floor elevator buttons are floating in the air. So that's just a bug that came with Contraptions Workshop. I'm sure it will be addressed in the near future. But another problem with the elevators is that settlers do not use them. So in order to get settlers to use the overpass and the boxcar city I've built for them, I had to build some scaffolding stairs, and that's what I've done here. And thankfully, the settlers do use them. The nice thing about the scaffolding stairs is they tend to be used very easily by settlers. They don't seem to hesitate to use them, unlike some of the other stairs that came with the game. So they will come up and down these stairs. And you'll notice that my elevator looks a little bit differently, and that's because of this neat little invention, which is I used the greenhouse walls to cover the elevator exterior to kind of make it a boxed-in elevator. Now, there were a few troubles. You see how floor 2 has a call button right there? Walls don't snap to the areas that have the call buttons. because of course that would get in the way of the call buttons. But I don't have a floor 2. I don't need that call button. So I ended up using the precise movement and rotation mod to put some of these walls in place. But many of the other walls snapped right to the elevator, including the roof at the top, which makes it look great. So let's move on up to the overpass here. And I placed a junk fence over here because I figure, you know, if the settlers are going to be building on top of this overpass, they need to be protected in case gunners or raiders start coming in from the overpass. So I placed these junk fences, and then I wired everything with these conduits that kind of snake down and then come across. And that's because wire conduits don't actually stick very well to the sides of the overpass. So it was a bear to wire. So I ended up using the conduits that come on down, and it ended up working pretty well. I've got some turrets over here, but I'm going to be talking about defense a little later. You'll notice that there's a waterfall coming down, and this did not come with the game. This is from the Build Your Own Pool mod, and I'll explain why I have a waterfall coming down in a little bit, but I just thought it looked so great. I wanted to find some way to kind of make this interesting, so I placed a waterfall with the source of the water coming from the top, and then cascading all the way down, and it actually goes down the hill. You can see some water right there cascading down, and I'll follow it for you a little bit later, but let me finish talking about this floor. So this bus came with the settlement. You couldn't scrap it. So I decided to work with it, and I turned it into a tiny little settler home. I've got some curtains on the walls covering the windows from some of the curtain mods that I recently did a video review on, and in the driver's seat, of course, is a teddy bear with a lit cigar in his mouth. I would have loved to have put a hat on him, but sadly OC Decorator doesn't support weapons or armor, and if I were to just plop a hat on top of him, it would have been bumped off by a settler. So if any of you know if there's a mod out there that's basically the OC Decorator for weapons and armor, let me know. I'd love to put that in there. But I used the curtain panels for most of the window coverage, and then I used the parted ones for the center of the bus to kind of get around this console up there. I have 4 beds in here. Each bed has some side tables, and notice that these military cots have a new texture. The vanilla cot that comes with the game has this nasty back sweat texture in the middle of it, and every single bed would have that same stain, and it's nasty and disgusting. So I downloaded a mod, which I link to in the description, that removes that texture and improves it so that your beds no longer have this horrible back sweat stain. Then the rest of it's pretty simple. I've got some lights on the inside. I don't have any wall decorations because the interior is concave and none of the posters would have stuck very well. So there's my bus. And then I built this boxcar here for more housing. On the inside I have some classy pinups with some more beds in the corner, posters on the wall, and it just looks cozy and lived in. Each boxcar seats 4 different people. It houses 4 different settlers who can sleep here. And then they've got some places for storage and for personal effects. I put another junk fence over here to kind of barricade it because this overpass actually goes on for quite some distance over there, and I don't want the settlers to be surprised by raiders or gunners. So then I built this blue boxcar, and this is the communal kitchen and eating facility. So over here is the kitchen, and I've got this nice, wonderful cooking stove that came with the game. And over here, if the settler will move, this is actually a stocked refrigerator. You can see a watermelon in there, and then a bunch of food through the glass door. I've got kitchen decorations on the wall, and then I set down this table, put a basket of fruit and vegetables underneath, and then just decorated it with boxed goods, a kitchen scale, and some bread. And then here's this this shelf from the Dino Shelf shelving mod that was really nice. I can just stick the shelf down, and then in 4 or 5 easy snaps, I've got dishes and produce and food and kitchen utensils, making it really look lived in. Here's a nice little kitchen sink for washing dishes, and for the doors, I liked to use these drawn back curtains. because if they're going to be coming in and out of the doors, you need to draw them back. Outside here, I've got some crates and some candles. And then here's the primary eating area. This is like the formal dining area. But as you saw earlier, there are a lot of tables outside that act as informal dining areas for the settlers who are walking around. Art on the walls, a nice little lamp coming up from there. And then each of these plates is decked out with food and beverages. Each plate is unique. So this is the kitchen and dining boxcar. Oh, by the way, I didn't realize that the posters that came with Contraptions Workshop have an alternate version. So the electronic posters have the one that has the conduit on it that you can actually directly wire something to, and that turns it on. But if you keep going, there are these as well where you don't actually have to wire the poster. It has this light that illuminates the poster, and all you have to do is set this next to a conduit, just like many of these other lamps. And you guys probably already knew this, and I'm just now discovering it. So I put those down there because I thought they looked nice. So as you can see, the piping, the water pipes, I've taken time to snake them all the way up. So they started down there at the base where these powered water pumps are. I figure that the settlers discovered a reservoir of water, or maybe there's groundwater coming from the hillside over there that's draining under here. The settlers discovered it, so they piped into it with these water pumps, and then they snake it on up the overpass using this series of water pipes. Now, the mod that gives me these water pipes is not very popular. It came up in April on the Nexus, and I remembered it, but I never installed it until just recently because now I have a use for it. But it doesn't have very many downloads, so I encourage you all to go and download it and leave a comment, because this is a really cool mod, and these do generate 2 water each, so I didn't have to use water pumps in conjunction with them. But I figured that it's piped up through here, it comes in through there, and then it goes on up to the top floor, which I will be showing you in a minute. But even though the 4-floor elevators are bugged, the 2 and 3-floor elevators are not. So I'll go ahead and call my elevator here. And this was tricky, so I had to elevate this using scaffolding. And the way I did it is, first I put down this board here, and then I snapped the elevator to the board. And at that time it was hovering in midair, but at least I knew exactly how tall I wanted my scaffolding to be. Then I simply snapped my scaffolding to the bottom of the elevator and then snapped it all the way down until it met the ground. And that gives the illusion that it's not hovering midair. So let's go on over to floor 3. And here we are at the top. It's much brighter up here because there's no shadow of the overpass. But here's where I have my fusion generator. And if you go to downtown Boston, you see these fusion generators outside all the time. So I'm thinking that they are weatherproof, so I didn't worry about having it on the indoors. You can see the roof that I have attached to my elevator here. And then over here is my workshop area. I've got an armor workbench, a weapon workbench, and my power armor workbench. And then I've just got a bunch of scrap and shelving doodads set out up here just to make this workshop look like it's an active functioning workshop. Over here, these boxcars are actually, they're not boxcars, these are shipping containers. That's what they are. These came with the settlement and you can't scrap them, so I decided to work with them. I put a ladder up here, and then over in the corner I've got a nice little seating area complete with some 50mm ammunition. And I imagine that this is a sniper lookout point for raiders that are coming across the bridge over there. Again, I wish I had a mod that allowed me to place weapons and armor and hats and clothing, because I wanted to set like a sniper rifle over here, but every time I tried doing it, it would get knocked over either by myself or a settler, and that's why you need a mod like OC Decorator. So if any of you know of a mod like that, please let me know. I'd love to use it. But you can see that this vantage point has a commanding view of downtown Boston and south towards the CIT. So it's just a wonderful little spot up here. And then over here, I didn't build on this area right here because it was so sloped. And if I had tried to build the boxcars that have the stilts, it would have poked through the bottom of the overpass. So I just left this alone, and I instead placed this junk fence here to kind of block it off. And then here's where the glitch in the 4-story elevator comes in. These are the control buttons for the elevator, and as you can see, they're hovering in the air. And if I were to call the elevator down there on the 4th floor, they would go up even further. So this is a huge bug with the 4-story elevators, where if you log out of the game or if you fast travel away, these things get moved up a bit. And other people have complained of the same issue, so I know it's not just me. Anyway, over here, I elevated this boxcar, and this is the communal shower facility. So let's go on inside. I've got showers up here, and the settlers do use them. As you can see, I have some many relaxation markers here. And when it comes to early morning or in the evenings after work, they'll come on up here and take showers and clean up for the day. I've got soap on the walls, and these are functional. They do turn on. And posters on the wall, and towels in the corner. And then I used this lace curtain that came with one of the curtain mods that I reviewed recently, just for a privacy screen, but it's also it looks nice in a bathroom, and it's great for if they want to open this boxcar door to get some air through here, because it could probably get kind of humid. And then over here, I've got the toilets. Yes, I have not installed the mod that corrects the toilet paper so that it's immersive. Oh my goodness. I get more comments about the way the toilet paper is rolled than any other thing. Anyway, someday I'll get to that. But I've got toilets over here in the corner, and then I made ample use of these posters, these illuminated posters on the wall. I figured they would look really good in this bathroom area. Now, you'll notice that there's water coming out here. And the water drains out of the communal shower and bathroom, and then drains down here through this crack, and then all the way down. This is the source of the waterfall. And I imagine that this is the way the settlers do drainage, right? So this is probably dirty, soapy water from the shower and other things. The water gets piped up through this pipe right here. You can see that it pipes into the boxcar really well. So that's how they get water in here for all of their bathing rituals. But then the water has to go out, and I figure it all comes out in this nice cascading waterfall. Really, I just wanted to have a use for the waterfall, and this is my logic behind it. So the water gets piped into the communal bathroom, and then it gets emptied out. I have placed a ladder up here so that settlers can come up here, and here's another vantage point where you can overlook the rest of the settlement. You can see way up there, lots of activity going on up there. Great commanding views of the area. And then, of course, I've got the only gun that I could place, which is the Silver Shroud prop gun. I've got that sitting there. I imagine this is another sniper point. But I wanted settlers to be able to come up here and access this area, so, and as you can see, some of the settlers do come on up here. They come up here and they use the relaxation markers up there. They'll sit in the chairs. They'll fiddle with the machinery over there and the workshop, so they do come up here. And the reason for that is because of these wonderful scaffolding stairs. I'm so thrilled with these scaffolding stairs because settlers have no problem with them whatsoever. I can place them down, and as long as I can get them to snap, I am guaranteed that the settlers will use them appropriately. So these come on down this way, and then the settlers can walk down here past the cascading waterfall to the rest of the stairs, which bring them all down here. But that's not even the bulk of it. So let's get on to the main scaffolding part of the settlement. Here on the base floor, I have a laundry facility and a chem lab. So if you come on in here, I've got a working laundry station complete with a dishwashing sink, a basket filled with clothing, and then some mops and brooms over there in the corner. And then I've got this nice dino shelf filled with clothing, boxed goods, and everything necessary for doing laundry. There's my laundry facility. And here, I figured the settlers are going to need to manufacture their own chems. So I have a chemistry station. I've got a science terminal over here with a microscope and all sorts of doodads, and then big piles of chems over here. This is, of course, where they produce their chems. Around the corner here, I have a nice chair with a great view of this bridge. And then the scaffolding goes on up. Now, before I show you everything up there, let me go down around and show you the bottom. This scaffolding was a nightmare, and the reason for that is because the scaffolding snaps to a myriad of different points on the scaffolding itself. So it's very difficult to get each different platform to snap to the bottom of the next one, because they want to snap to the sides of it, or they want to snap to some other part, maybe a floor that you placed. So it took a lot of time and patience and doing it over and over again to actually get these to snap to the bottom of it in such a way. Now, I built a 4-story kind of sprawling city under here. I didn't want to build just one flat platform. That would have been boring. And the way I did it is I built the platforms first and then snaked them through the overpass using the ladders in such a way so that I felt it looked organic. And then once the platforms were built, I then built the supports downward from the floating platforms to give it the illusion that it's being supported by the scaffolding. That way I didn't build just a flat platform, I actually built something that looked like it was making good use of the area. So coming on up, and you see that I've got a myriad of different boxcars under the overpass. All of them are powered, and there's a walkway around each of them. You come in inside, and you see that they are each individually decorated. There's 4 cots to each boxcar. Each section is individually decorated with a different kind of curtain. I have this door closed off, so of course I used the flat panel curtains instead of the drawn ones, since it is closed off. And then I've got a lot of seating out here, so I wanted to make sure that this elevated scaffolding section wasn't really tight and cramped. I wanted it to be open. So I've got seating out here and smokes and some beers. Here's some Bobrov's Best Moonshine and some airport seats. Here's a blue box car, powered really well, completely different curtains, different paintings on the wall, illuminated well on the inside with some nice clean military cots. Rounding the bend, and you see that the scene splits. It goes up and down. Let's go down first. Down here is another little eating area. I've got some food over here with some Vim from Far Harbor, and then some food from Far Harbor. These are all foods from Far Harbor, including the Far Harbor coffee cup. A nice burning barrel over here, some seating, a working ice chest, and then another housing area over here, complete with different photos, different paintings on the wall, and then I used some brown curtains for this boxcar. And I don't remember what mod gave me that painting. I don't believe it came with the game, but I thought it looked really nice, and so I placed it there. And the settlers do walk throughout this entire thing. I'm just so pleased that pathing was not an issue with the scaffolding. I'm going to be using scaffolding a lot in my settlement revisits because it's so settler friendly. Settlers just do not have a problem with walking around it. Over here, this is where the waterfall comes down, and it comes through the cracks right there, and then it kind of spills onto this orange boxcar and then around it. But I figure that's not going to be too much of a problem. Who knows? Maybe they come out here and rinse their heads or something in the morning. But I've got a smoking station out here, and then on the inside we have a nicely decorated boxcar, complete with green curtains, and it's decorated uniquely, right? I want it to look as if people are actually living here. And then across this catwalk, we pass the only shack that's left in this building. Everything else is boxcars. And we come to this nice big open area, complete with 2 eating stations that are very well lit. Even some magazines on there for reading material. There's a nice loungy area over here with fancy lad snack cakes. And then I joined these 2 boxcars together, the orange one and the blue one. If you watched my video on how boxcars work, you know that they actually do snap to each other through the opening gate here, and I made use of that when joining these together in sort of like an L shape. I put a Nuka-Cola and Vim machine out here with the fire barrel so that they can get their drinks. A nice little loungy area with some beers over here and with another great commanding view. And then let's go on inside. This is just a player home. A settler home, rather. They've got their storage underneath each bed, decorations on the wall, and I fit many more beds in here, as you can see, because it's this large L shape. One's orange and it ends there, and the other's blue and it ends right there. And then I actually opened up this back door because I wanted them to have a balcony out here looking over the rest of the settlement. So I built this back balcony out here, complete with relaxation stations. I've got relaxation markers out here, so they actually do come out and use them. Cigars and beer and candles and cigarettes so that they can just enjoy themselves. And there you go. So those are the boxcars, and I managed to get 36 settlers living in this area. I really wanted to make use of vertical space with this build. It's so easy to go linearly when you do settlement builds, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make as best use of the actual space as I could, and I wanted it to be unique. I just love that I was able to work in a waterfall, and to make it make sense, at least in my mind. You guys might have problems with it. No, that doesn't make sense. Oxhorn, that's not realistic. Well, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. And then I'm actually pretty pleased with how this garden turned out. For the life of me, I didn't know what I was going to do because these robots just sat out here snipping away at the empty air. And then it dawned on me, hey, well, if I can't use this for crops, maybe I can turn it into a nice garden with coffee centers and a grill. Here's a working grill out here where they can grill up some of their meats, and then they'll sit around and warm their hands by the fire, and while the butlers run around and trim all of the crops. Now, each of these Mr. Handy robots is technically assigned to farming on the inside here, just like all of the other ones are. The only difference is that they never move, right? They never move, so instead I just decided to surround them with flowers and plants. All right, so here's our terminal. Let's find out where enemies spawn. Let's load up our settlement management software. Great, now our attack spawn points are marked, and I want to talk a little bit about that. Let's change the weather. There, that's better. Better for recording. Anyway, so let's go to spawn point number 1. So let's round the corner here and up the hill. You guys are probably very familiar with this spawn point. It's right here at the crest of the hill, and as you can see, they spawn way up here, so they've got a great view, and they can kind of catch you surprised up here. So what I did is I built this turret structure using the scaffolding. If you've seen my previous videos, you know that I typically use the shack bridge to elevate my missile turrets and my machine gun turrets, but now I don't need to. Now that scaffolding is here, I've got plenty of room to use scaffolding for that. So I built a 3-story defense turret structure here, complete with 2 missile turrets, 1 heavy laser turret, a spotlight, and 3 ballistic machine gun turrets. Over here, I built an elevated guard station. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I was anxious. I thought that maybe the settler wouldn't climb the station, but as I told you earlier, the scaffolding stairs are really super settler friendly. So all I had to do was wind some stairs all the way up here, and bingo bango bongo, the settler is working up here just fine. She's got a great view of the hillside, so that if I get attacked from that direction, I am safe. Spawn point number 2 is just annoying, and it's unnecessary, and I don't know why Bethesda does this, but it's right here, right smack dab in the middle of the settlement. So when you find spawn point markers like this, you don't want to have anything nearby that can get broken. And in my last build, I had a bunch of shops over here, and those were constantly getting broken due to the area effect damage done by the missile turrets. Let's fix the sunlight here. Yeah, that's a little better. And this is another reason why building walls are not really effective. I mean, they may look great, and I'm not saying you shouldn't build walls, but they don't actually keep raiders out, because as you can see right here, raiders can spawn within your walls, especially if you don't realize where the spawn points are. So that's why I never build walls. Anyway, so what I did is, instead of using something that does area of effect damage, I built this little platform up here that I showed off earlier, and this is going to be my defense section for that spawn point, and it has heavy laser turrets and 1 ballistic machine gun turret. I find that only 1 or 2 enemies spawn there. Most of them spawn up on that hillside, but 1 or 2 will spawn down there, so I've got some laser turrets and ballistic machine gun turrets, and that I think should be suitable for that particular section. I just didn't want something heavy like missile turrets that could potentially harm anything around here. Like, I think the only thing that could get broken is maybe this workbench. Actually, I don't think workbenches can get broken, so maybe nothing can get broken around here. So I should be all right. Now, let's get to the final spawn location, and this one surprised me. And I don't really understand it, but I'll try to brainstorm it with you. So the way I think this mod works, the mod that detects spawn points, is I think that it just does a search radius around the settlement for any spawn location that it finds. And then it just assumes that if it's close to the settlement, then that spawn location must be designed to attack this settlement. So it detects this one right here, and I have seen enemies spawn down here, but the enemies that spawn down here, at least in my experience, never actually attack the settlement. But I wanted to be careful, so I did create a defense section up here. And it's smaller than the others, but I placed this elevated guard tower right here, and I'm not sure where the guard is. She's usually manning her post really well right there. And then right next to it, I built this elevated defense section. Now, this is actually part of the scaffolding that I already built to support that boxcar, so I didn't really need to do anything new. I just put some platforms on it and then put a whole bunch of ballistic machine gun turrets. These were left over from my previous build, and since they were free and I wasn't going to be expending any more cost to build them, I figured I'd just stack them up here. There goes my robot provisioner. Anyway, so I don't really think that I get attacked from over here too often, but just in case, I put a bunch of machine gun turrets there and my my guard tower. All right, let's head back up. So that pretty much covers it. I've got some feeding troughs back here for my Brahmin. That keeps them nice and out of my way. And I'm just really happy with how this turned out. Graygarden had bugged me for a long time. I just felt like I had dropped the ball on it. I had been lazy, and it just didn't look the way that I wanted it to. Plus, when I built it the first time, I didn't realize that you could build on the overpass, and so I wanted to make use of that. I think that what I ended up with looks busy, it looks lived in, it looks interesting, it looks like unlike anything you're going to find in anyone else's build. So that is my presentation for all of you. So my plans, ladies and gentlemen, is I plan to revisit many of the settlements that I built in the past. Even though I've already finished all of them and I've published a video for every single one, I plan to revisit my older ones so that I can do things like this, so that I can incorporate some of the new pieces that came with Contraptions Workshop and the new pieces that are bound to come with Vault-Tec Workshop and Nuka World when they come out. Also, I've learned a lot since then, and I really want to incorporate the things that I've learned into my future builds. So there you have it. I present this to you for your approval. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this revision of Graygarden. Let me know if you've got any ideas for ways that I can improve, and if you've got any ideas for things that I should incorporate into my future builds. Please subscribe for more content like this. Your subscriptions keep this channel alive, and thank you so much for watching.